A patch preview for next patch. For some reason, there's a lot of buffs in this list. That's kind of sus. Usually, there's no buffs on champions. Okay. So Azir, they're reverting back the W base damage, which is very little, but it's still there for early game. The AP ratio is still nerfed with the ability, and maybe something else. I'm not sure. Okay, I mean this is like a partially revert because he lost too much win rate. Blah blah blah. Fine. Braum, mana region up by 1. Totally okay. R minimum secondary knock-up duration from 0.3 to 0.6. I don't know exactly like what R minimum secondary knock-up duration. To be fair, I hate when Riot buffs CC. And it doesn't matter which character it is. There's too much crowd control in this video game. But fine, I guess. I mean, Braum ult is more fair compared to like a lot of other ults where, you know, the ult at least has way more counterplay. I guess I'll accept that. Galio. Q cooldown will go down by 4 seconds. Okay. So, no, by 2 seconds, sorry. By 2 seconds max rank. Okay. Not a bad buff. It's not going to be enough, but it's not a bad buff. Because this incentivizes Galio to actually max Q first to the max rank. A lot of times Galio is not incentivized to actually max Q to the max rank. And he can leave it at 3 or 4 points. This kind of fixes that issue. It doesn't buff Night Harvester build as much, also because the mana issues are more apparent with lower cooldown. So, you know, if you kind of want a Lost Chapter item like Everfrost most likely still, if you play AP Galio. But the champion is still trash. I mean, it's at least a buff in the right direction. It's on his main spell. It's not too bad. Gragas. Passive cooldown from 12 seconds flat to 12 to 6. Okay. Good. I've been very public about that Gragas passive is very bad and that the passive needs to scale better in late game. Which is exactly what's going on here. Good buff. This is very good for Gragas. I honestly think Gragas will be very good after this. In good players' hands, in good matchups. So, like, he's kind of moving towards the old Gragas where people were considering him OP and then Riot had to slam the passive down. So, this is totally fine. I like this. I would maybe prefer if they just increased the flat percentage on passive later on, but this is good. Because it doesn't make sense for Gragas to have just a strictly worse Mundo passive at every stage of the game almost. It just doesn't make sense to me. So this is very needed, what they're doing. Cassante. I don't know why we're buffing this champion, but okay. You know, Vel'Koz can have negative win rate for years, right? But Cassante has it for one patch. Ah, guys, gotta fix it. Riot favoritism coming in here, right there for their favorite baby. So W mana will go down from 60 to 80 to 40 to 60. Well, Q mana is still nerfed, right? So technically, he's still gonna have less mana than before with this change. But that just makes W way more spammable in lane. W resist damage ratio will go up. Okay, so if you get hit by W, it's gonna nuke you even more than before. I don't think these are the most oppressive buffs at least, but yeah. Lona, W resist up by 10. R damage up by 50 max rank. Very little Lona buffs. Makes her W more, max more, right, than before. Yeah, a pretty little Lona buffs. I guess we take those. This is fine. Lucian, E cooldown down by 3 seconds early game. Ooh, interesting. I think Lucian's not too bad. Lucian's not bad late game anyway. This is fine. E cooldown being down, this is fine. Mordekaiser QAP ratio up by 10%. So the buff is like even bigger, right, if you have a single target Q. New R reveals his target on start of the cast. Brush doesn't cancel the ability. Huh. That is a very good quality of life change. Wow. That is really good quality of life change for Mordekaiser. Does that mean Nico W will also not cancel Mord ult? Not sure. That is really big. I wish Rice got this. Rice has the same issue where someone walks into the bush, your E or W will just get cancelled. I really wish Rice would get something like that. Kiana. Mana up base and mana up per level. Really horrible change. I'm a huge hater of this change because it promotes noob Kiana gameplay, which is sit under tower and last hit with spells the whole laning phase. The same issues Talon suffers and the same issue Nafiri suffers. All these assassins have the same issue. They just have a horrible kid that they can't lane into range characters, so then they just use spells and brainlessly AFK at tower, and this is exactly what this promotes. I hate it. Talon. New Q range resets auto attack. New range Q resets auto attack, matches with melee. Okay, that's a nice quality of life change, not gonna lie. Zari, 80 growth up a little bit, W damage up by 10. Yeah, no, nothing special. Nothing special in this Zari change. I'll do the nerfs after the game. We're fighting. We have Ashe level 1, so you know we gotta fight, baby. We have Ashe level 1. Wow. Wow. Mid lane. Alright, so we got champion buffs over. Now to champion nerfs. Briar is gonna get like 5,000 nerfs, I guess. Small ones, but it is what it is. They're changing our damage to magic damage instead of physical because, oh, lethality build's performing too well. Yeah, classic. Well, yeah. It is what it is. That is the byproduct of solo queue. Ivern will lose 25 health and will lose 5% slow. Yeah, these Ivern nerfs are a joke. These Ivern nerfs are a joke. Yeah, these are not nerfs. These are not nerfs. Huawei champion release, cool. Velcos, bug fixes for W and E fizzling at times. E timing buffs will come in a future patch due to a bug. Cool. So that's it, I guess. Cool, I guess. Hold on. Yeah, that's the patch. Where's the Pantom? I thought Pantom was gonna get buffed. What happened? They pulled it out. Oh. It doesn't need buffs. I think Pantom would be a okay champ to buff. I think he'd be okay champ to buff. What would I buff on Panton? Good question. What would I buff? Base MR maybe? By like 2, 3? Like what else would I buff? It's really hard to buff Panton. Ult damage? His ult damage is pretty good. Faster R would help. The R got faster. Riot already increased R speed once in the past by 0.25, which is actually quite noticeable. It's easier to land the spear than before. E mana cost? Oh, I mean, my mana cost buff wouldn't be bad. What is it called? Um, what is it called? Like E mana being down by like 10 mana would be a pretty good buff. And it's a very small one. I wouldn't mind that. Or just increasing his base mana growth, you know? Mana growth up would be nice. Because that means like his early game mana is still pretty constraining, but his late game is a bit better. Lower CD or duration. Like lower CD on E, man, it's such an impactful spell. You want Panton to only get one E off in a fight, you know? Mainly, unless he has high haste build. Can Lucian work in soul lanes? No, he's just better ADC these days, because of his passive, mainly. I mean, it can work in soul lane, it's just not as good as it used to be. Cassandra getting changes every patch? That's because Cassandra is Riot's favorite baby. They can't let the champion be negative win rate for one patch, while Vel'Koz can sit there for years and not be given a shit about. Like, okay, here's the biggest part that triggers me about Riot, okay? Riot developers, aka Freak, of course, in this case, because Freak is the most outspoken one, cannot follow their own logic, right? Riot, like Freak in particular, always says like, oh guys, if a champion is very hard to master, blah blah blah, then he should have a lower win rate, naturally lower sitting win rate, blah blah blah. Like, and then they can't follow the same logic at Cassandra. It is what it is. Like, Cassandra should not have very high win rate as a champion. There's like a good argument to be made that Cassandra is a totally acceptable champion on below 50% win rate. What you see also a lot of times when it comes to Cassandra, what happens is they nerf him, his win rate's really bad for a few days, and then it goes up. Crazy how that works, guys. Does Tinder work in Soul? It works for everyone except me. For me, it doesn't work. The app just crashes. It says I'm too ugly for the app.
Hi.
Snowbee, thanks for the sub. Like how the seriously I just love Riot Balance Team. They go out and they be like, oh guys, we have limited resources every week. We can't just buff 500 champions and nerf 500. We are limited on resources. And then every week there's a Cassandra change. Yeah, guys, I wonder why there's a limited resources. Unlucky. Cassandra change every patch. Matthew for Eva, thank you for Twitch Prime.